Beautiful day here, early October, sun shining here. I hope it is where you are. Enjoy getting out in the sunshine a little bit today. It's always good to help you feel refreshed. Now, some of you may be wondering why I'm wearing a jacket inside, but I'm so tickled with getting my Five-Star logo wear, which I ordered at the company meeting. It's your Under Armour windbreaker logo. It's a great jacket. I wore it over the weekend, and I haven't stopped wearing it. It's which might seem a little strange, but I like it that much. So I'm going to ask Dom to see if he'll put a link on there to the Five-Star store, so that you can look at what's available in logo wear. As I mentioned in other live streams, wearing apparel that has the logo on it will get you questions. Just yesterday, I went to the Planet Fitness and I was wearing the jacket, and somebody said to me, "Oh, are you in real estate?" And I said, "Yeah," and I handed them a business card. I don't know if I'll hear from them, but I got a better chance of hearing from them than if I didn't have the jacket on and didn't hand them a business card. Would you agree? I'm guessing yes. So today's topic is a little touchy, and it applies to a much broader range than just what the title is, which is working with divorcing couples. When you're working with a couple who's going through a divorce, you have to be very, very careful. It also holds true of situations where you have estate properties and there are multiple siblings involved. Or let's pretend that three friends get together in their freshman year of college, going to go to 4 years to college together, and they don't want to pay for the high price of living in a dorm. So they go out and buy a house, a rental with 3 bedrooms in it, and they live together as roommates until one of them meets someone special and decides to move out and start his or her own life together with their new partner. What happens if that third partner needs the equity of the property? It may ultimately result in selling the property in order to get the equity pulled out if the other two can't come up with the cash. And in all of these cases where you have multiple clients that make up one client, that is the seller, you have to be very, very careful. Many times you'll find yourself walking on eggshells because, particularly in a divorce situation, emotions get involved. And some of them can be amicable. Those are rare. Most of them, at some point, are going to involve some drama. And one of the first things I'll tell you is stay out of the drama. Don't get on the drama hook, because from then on out, you are going to be stuck in that swirl of drama that's going on. So I'm going to back up and just say that the very first thing you should do is, if you're going to meet with a couple, for example, I'm going to stick with divorcing couples for the time being. If you meet with that couple, the first thing you have to do is set expectations and be very, very clear about what the expectations are as it regards communication, pricing, marketing, all of those kinds of things. Because if you don't set those expectations, then they are going to assume that they individually will be able to contact you and let's say try to sway you to their point of view about what it's going to take to get the house sold, but they may not necessarily be, and probably aren't, speaking of one mind. And if you put yourself in the position of allowing yourself to be tugged to one side or the other, now you're not equally representing your client. Greg put it nicely as we were talking about this actually this morning, and he said, I'm going to draw you a triangle. It's like there's a triangle. There's the agent, that's you. There's spouse 1 and spouse 2. I could probably make a poem out of that, but I won't. Anyway, the agent and both parties must always be in communication with one another without barriers. You can't communicate with spouse 1 and not communicate what you've spoken about with spouse 2. Same thing holds true going this way. And if they communicate with you, you should always verify it by emailing both parties what the conversation was about and what the result moving forward is. What are we going to do moving forward here? Are we going to do something about additional marketing? Are we going to lower the price? Is one party going to take the lion's share of responsibility on his or her shoulders for running point on the sale of the property? Eric came up with a great idea over the weekend, actually, I think it was. And he said that the two of them should write down their expectations. They should actually put it in writing what is going to be expected in this process. In other words, for example, in the example that he gave, the divorcing couple was going to sell on a land contract. Now, right away, for me, sirens go off, bells are ringing, all sorts of things, warning signs. Because if you don't pay that loan off, if you sell out, and then you have a balloon payment, let's say in 2 years, for example, who gets the money? Who gets the money when you close on it for the land contract? But more importantly, if there's equity in the property, which is being delayed, if the payoff is being delayed to both husband and wife or couple, who is going to get what out of that sale? How are you going to calculate it? Who's going to be responsible for keeping the house clean? Is the person who is living in the property and maintaining the property and setting up showings and dealing with all of that going to get more money than the person who has moved out and has no responsibility whatsoever other than to shake his or her head yes or no if an offer comes in? Those expectations from both parties should be written down. And guess what? When you sit down with them to talk about expectations and talk about how you're going to communicate with them, if somebody calls you and if one of them calls you and says, hey, Don, I'll use me. Don, I think we need to lower the price because we're not getting offers. My first communication to them is, do you think we ought to get your spouse on the line here in a conference call so that we're all clear and talking openly, transparently about what our next steps are? If the answer is no, I don't want to talk to my spouse about that, then I would probably say, this is really between you and your spouse to have a conversation, and then the two of you should communicate with me about what we're going to do next. My recommendation, for example, is that we, let's say, lower the price. But I'm not going to tell one something different than what I tell the other. I'm not going to put a wedge between them or play one against the other. I'm not going to find the be good cop, bad cop, and say, you're the one who's making sense here. How about you convince your spouse to lower the price or do something, whatever it might be. You can't do that. You owe each of them equal fiduciary responsibility. So, what do? Well, first of all, I suggest to them, again, in the setting expectations portion, I say, folks, if we ultimately can't find a solution between the two of you that you find acceptable, then both of you are going to have to go to your attorneys, sit down and arbitrate this so that I can then have a clear indication about what we're going to do moving forward. In fact, I would just as soon work with your attorneys to resolve these issues than to work with you, to be quite honest, because the attorneys aren't going to get emotional. The attorneys understand the law. They understand community property in the state of Michigan. So I would probably say, this is why attorneys are involved in divorces, because they understand that ultimately, if they have to take this before a judge, that's going to be the final word. And the final word is going to come back, and whatever that judge says about the price is going to be and who gets what is ultimately going to be the answer, whether you like it or not. So I encourage them to work together as amicably as possible. I know going into it that out of every 10 divorce situations that I'm going to encounter, probably 8 of them are going to become dramatic. They're going to involve drama, and it's going to be very, very challenging. Again, I think that anytime I communicate with them, I communicate transparently. I let both parties know what has happened. If I can't get them actually on a conference call together, to have, sometimes that may be counterproductive if there's a lot of animosity, but I always follow it up with an email that says, here's what we talked about, here's what we thought, here's what I need to know in order to move forward here. Having a paper trail in situations like this is absolutely essential. And again, never pit one against the other. And in those situations where it's not a divorce, in the college roommate situation that I gave, again, it may be a situation where they can't work it out on their own, and they may have to get an attorney or 3 involved in order to go through this property divorce, if you will, to break up the ownership of it so that they can move forward. Same thing happens with estates, where you may have 5 siblings involved in making the decision, that all of them are going to have a decision, an equal decision, even though only one of them is an executor of the estate. And that executor may have full authority to act any way he or she wants as it regards the property. But he or she also has 4 siblings to live with, and Thanksgiving dinners can get a little awkward if they've just had a huge argument about the sale of their parents' home. So whenever you get into these situations where there are multiple people involved and they all make up one party as your client, the seller, be very, very careful. Never take sides, never exclude one of them from a conversation. and always keep them equal in their interests. So, I think that covers. Any questions on that? If you do, type them in, and Dom will share them with me here on the screen. We also had a situation over the weekend, and this is an unusual one, but we've all run into unusual transactions, and this one was very unusual, I guess. Okay, Mom owns condo 1, and she owns condo 2. Okay, Mom owns 2 condos. She lives in this one, and her son lives in this one, and rents it from her. Okay, she wants to buy this condo. We'll call that condo 3, since we're being creative. Okay, so in order to buy condo 3, Mom has to sell condos 1 and 2 to pull the equity from both of these properties in order to buy condo 3. Buyer comes along, makes an offer on condo 1, and another offer comes in on condo 2. This one, the one Mom lives in, she says, well, I'm worried that if I sell my condo, and if anything happens to the sale of my son's condo, my condo that he rents from me, then I won't be able to move forward on buying condo 3, and I'll be homeless. Yep, she's right. So how do you protect Mom from becoming homeless in a situation where both of these condos have to close in order for Mom to be able to close on condo 3? That's the challenge that the agent and I struggled through. I think it was Saturday night, if I recall. But anyway, the point is, it really was challenging, because in order for all of this to happen, you have to have a couple of buyers out here who are willing to accept these terms, that both of these condos, that these offers, the closing of these offers, is subject to a simultaneous closing of both of Mom's condos. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of buyers out there who would think, oh yeah, no problem, I have an offer on this Mom's condo, but I'm not going to know until the day of closing whether I'm actually going to get to close on it. Likewise, same thing here. How many buyers out there are going to accept the risk of waiting until Mom's condo has closed to close on theirs, and they then run the risk of being homeless? Well, let's stop and think about it for a minute. Who is our client? Well, in this case, Mom, who owns 2 condos. So we owe her the fiduciary responsibility of obedience to write an addendum and explain the possible consequences of this addendum, to say, yes, these offers over here by the buyers are accepted, but they are subject to a simultaneous closing on these 2 properties and Mom's closing of this property. Don't forget, we've got this one over here. What happens if something happens to this, but both of these have closed? Does Mom have a place to live? Nope. Do the buyers have a place to live? Nope. Mom and son continue to live in the condos that fell apart because this one fell apart also. So again, it's a very complex situation. And what you need to do when you're faced with this is walk through it very, very carefully in person, I recommend, in order to sketch it out, to explain to them, well, let's go through this just for a second. Did you like that one, Dom? How was that on your ears? Yeah, he's doing like one of these, like, don't ever do that again. Okay, so again, condo 1, condo 2, condo 3. You're going to have to write something in there that protects mom, but also protects her in the event that condo 3 doesn't close. So it may be something like, these offers from these buyers are accepted subject to simultaneous closing here and a within 24 hours of a scheduled closing on this property. I don't know how to make it any clearer or protect the seller, but at the same time, I would strongly recommend that you talk with the seller in this particular case and lay out how this hurts the marketability of both of these condos, and that there may need to be some risk taken to say that these could be terminated, but if they're not, if they're moving along at within 10 days, 14 days of the fully executed purchase agreement, that mom will stay in the deal for both of them if they do that. So it's a situation where a seller wants to eliminate any and all risk to herself, and that's understandable, but it may also hurt the marketability of the property. So again, one more time, Mr. Dom, any questions? No questions. I think that's enough to handle for today. I wish you well. Thanks for joining, and we will see you here next week. Have a great day.